2020 is a strange year. Liverpool have finally won the Premier League and Motorola also has a competitive smartphone in the affordable segment. Now jokes aside, the Moto One Fusion Plus that I reviewed recently on this channel is a fantastic smartphone and I recommended this phone to you guys wholeheartedly. But the fact remains that there are other compelling smartphones in the affordable segment, including the fan favorite Poco X2. So in this video, I'll be comparing these two phones end to end and in the end, we'll talk about which one is a better buy for you. But guys, before we get on with the video, make sure to hit the bell icon and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already so that you don't miss out on any awesome tech content that we put out. Now that you've done that, let's get on with a full comparison of the Poco X2 and the Moto One Fusion Plus. So let's kick things off with the design of the two smartphones we have here today. Now, when I reviewed the Moto One Fusion Plus, I clearly said that it doesn't feel as premium as compared to the Poco X2 and well, after spending a few more days with the phone, my opinion hasn't changed. Now, the Moto One Fusion Plus doesn't look bad per se, but it's certainly no Poco X2 in terms of looks. It starts with the materials used in construction, and here the Poco X2 outclasses Motorola's offering by featuring an all-glass design which, by the way, is covered with a layer of Corning's Gorilla Glass version 5 on both the front and the back. Now the Moto One Fusion Plus ships with a polycarbonate body instead and the company hasn't specified what type of display protection is on board too. There's something just not from Corning. Now everything considered, the Poco X2 is in my opinion a better designed smartphone as compared to the Moto One Fusion Plus. Now Motorola's offering does have quite a lot of things going for it in the design department, including the pop-up selfie camera and a dedicated Google Assistant key, but quite frankly, it's just not enough. That being said, when it comes to ergonomics, I much prefer using Moto One Fusion Plus and the smartphone's chunky profile coupled with its plastic back ensures that the device didn't slip from my hands as much as the Poco X2 did. Also, neither of the two phones comes with a triple SIM slot, so you're going to have to compromise on expanding storage or your connectivity options on both. Lastly, when it comes to haptic feedback, then I'll say it right now, there is no other phone right now in the affordable segment that can rival the Moto One Fusion Plus. Typing on this phone is a lot more fun than typing on this phone. Now, when it comes to biometrics, both the Moto One Fusion Plus as well as the Poco X2 offer a capacitive fingerprint sensor. However, the one on the Poco X2 has been positioned on the side, whereas it's placed on the back of the Moto One Fusion Plus. Now see, both of these are really big phones, so having a rear-mounted fingerprint sensor is not always the best as you'll constantly have to readjust your grip as opposed to a side-mounted fingerprint sensor which automatically aligns with your thumb the second you pick up the phone. I'd also like to add that the sensor on the Poco X2 is slightly faster and the phone even comes with facial recognition which is absent on the Moto One Fusion Plus owing to its pop-up camera module. Also, while both the phones offer more or less the same sensors, the Poco X2 comes with an electronic compass sensor which should help pinpoint your orientation when using applications like Google Maps. Now the One Fusion Plus omits this feature and therefore the Poco X2 takes the win in this section too. Alright, when it comes to audio, both the phones we have here today offer a single speaker at the bottom and even come with a headphone jack. Now, Moto claims that the speaker on the One Fusion Plus offers the deepest bass and I 100% agree with the company's claim. I've compared the speakers on this phone to almost every affordable phone and no other device offers such good depth in the low end as the speaker on the One Fusion Plus does. Plus, it's also quite louder when compared to the speaker on the Poco X2. Now, in terms of audio from the headphone jack, well, here things get a little interesting because both the phones reportedly support high-res audio, but only the Poco X2 comes with high-res certification. Now, having tried different sets of earphones on these two phones, including the Tin Audio T2, the One More Quad drivers, and even Google's Pixel Buds C, I can say that the Poco X2 sounds slightly better in the sense that the audio output from the phone is a little bit cleaner. But on the whole, they both sound really good and the difference is very nuanced, so you will enjoy the audio output from the headphone jack on both these phones equally. Now same goes for the call quality too, and the earpiece on both the smartphones was very clear and I didn't notice any call or signal drops either. Now I personally use an Airtel postpaid connection and even the internet connectivity was about the same on both the phones. I was getting very similar upload and download speeds on both the handsets. Now things get very interesting in the display department because both of these two smartphones have something very unique to offer here. Now before I talk about that, what you should know is that the Moto One Fusion Plus and the Poco X2 both ship with an LCD display with a Full HD Plus resolution, when the screen on the Moto One Fusion Plus is measuring in at 6.5 inches and the screen on the Poco X2 measures in at 6.67 inches. So you get a slightly bigger display with the Poco X2. Also, both the phones come with Widevine L1 certification and are HDR10 certified, so you will be able to watch shows in HD from Prime and Netflix on the two devices. Now coming to the display quality, the screen on the Moto One Fusion Plus is undoubtedly better tuned as it makes use of DCI P3 color space, so you'll find that colors look more authentic on the One Fusion Plus's display. Furthermore, since the One Fusion Plus comes with a pop-up selfie camera, the display on the phone is void of any notch, so you'll undoubtedly get a more immersive viewing experience here too. Now coming to the Poco X2, firstly the smartphone offers a bigger screen without being all that taller or wider as compared to the One Fusion Plus, and that's because the phone has smaller bezels surrounding the screen. It also has slightly brighter panel at 500 nits compared to the 450 nits on the One Fusion Plus. More importantly though, the display on the Poco X2 refreshes at 120Hz, which is double the rate at which the One Fusion Plus's display refreshes at. Now we can sit here and debate what's better, a better tuned display or the one that refreshes quicker. See, this is generally going to boil down to your personal preference, but for me, I will always choose a screen that refreshes quicker. Again, I wish the panel on the Poco X2 was as color accurate as the one on the Moto One Fusion Plus, but the sad reality is that we cannot have it all. And even though the 120Hz refresh rate on the smartphone is a bit janky, it doesn't always stick to 120Hz. There are times when I've seen the refresh rate drop drastically. I'd still stick with it because that's just my preference. So Irshad compared the cameras on the Poco X2 thoroughly to the ones on the Moto One Fusion Plus, so I highly recommend you watch that video. But if you want the TLDR of how that comparison went, then here goes. Firstly, let's talk about the camera specs. Starting with the One Fusion Plus, the smartphone comes with a quad camera setup at the back comprising a 64-megapixel Samsung GW1 sensor that has been paired with an 8-megapixel ultra-wide angle lens, a 5-megapixel macro camera and a 2-megapixel depth sensor. For selfies, the smartphone gets a 16-megapixel selfie shooter. Now the Poco X2 on the other hand comes with a 64-megapixel Sony IMX686 sensor, an 8-megapixel ultra-wide angle lens and a 2-megapixel macro and depth sensor respectively. For selfies, the phone gets a 20+2MP dual selfie camera combo on the front. So in Irshad's comparison, he pointed out that the Moto One Fusion Plus clicked more tonally accurate images as compared to the Poco X2. However, the Poco X2 edged out ever so slightly in terms of the overall details, and it also controlled highlights better. Now, I found that to be the case here too, and the One Fusion Plus definitely captured the scene as was, but the Poco X2's dynamic range and detailing were slightly better. Now in 64-megapixel shots from both the phones, the results were pretty similar and both the phones were neck and neck. Now coming to the wide-angle images, Irshad's findings were spot on once again, and the Poco X2 clearly has a better wide-angle shooter as it offers better corner details at a closer crop and it doesn't muck up the colors in the scene either. In fact, I pointed out in my review of the Moto One Fusion Plus 2 that I wasn't impressed with the wide-angle lens on the phone, so the Poco X2 undoubtedly takes this round. Now as for the macro camera, well, the 5-megapixel sensor on the One Fusion Plus edges out the 2-megapixel unit on the Poco X2 in terms of details, so that's pretty easy conclusion to get at. Moving on though, the daylight selfies from the Moto One Fusion Plus look really good and offer more accurate skin tone as compared to the ones clicked from the Poco X2. Now the Poco X2 does redeem itself by offering a better bokeh cutout for the front camera in portrait mode, but I would still pick the One Fusion Plus's selfie camera here. See, higher megapixels don't really mean a better photo now, do they? Coming to the low light performance, the Poco X2 Sony IMX686 sensor doesn't give it the edge we all thought it would, and while the photo without night mode turned on is brighter on the phone, it's not as sharp as what you'd get with the One Fusion Plus. Similarly, turning on the night mode on the two phones results in a much better photo from the devices, but here the One Fusion Plus clearly edges out owing to superior details and lesser noise in the shots. Here are some more samples to substantiate the same. So on the whole, the cameras on both these phones are very neck and neck, and if you want a deeper analysis as to which one does better video for instance, then do check out Irshad's comparison. The link will be up here again. But for the time being, let's move on to the performance. Now, performance-wise, both the Moto One Fusion Plus and the Poco X2 come with Qualcomm Snapdragon 730G processor, which has been paired with UFS 2.1 storage. Now, while the Moto One Fusion Plus only comes with a single variant of 6GB RAM and 128GB storage, you can spec out the Poco X2 all the way up to 8GB of RAM and 256GB of storage. So, which of these two is faster? Well, it shouldn't come as a surprise to you, but the phones offer very similar performance when it comes to day-to-day usage. But if I have to choose, then I'd say the One Fusion Plus definitely felt more snappy, which could have something to do with its light Android skin. In terms of gaming, you can play PUBG on both the phones at HD and high or smooth and ultra, and Call of Duty at very high graphics and frame rates. The gaming experience was excellent on the two devices too, with the FPS stability being the same on the two phones, and even after 45 minutes of gaming, neither of the two handsets got too warm to the touch. Now, synthetic benchmarks also show a similar story, and the Antutu, Geekbench and AndroBench scores of the two phones are on par with one another. But in the Touch Multitest app, the touch sampling rate of the two phones is quite different, and the Poco X2 offered a much higher 240 samples per second when compared to the One Fusion Plus's 120 touch samples per second, meaning the touchscreen on the X2 is more responsive as compared to the one you get with the One Fusion Plus. Now, while the two phones we have it today draw parallels in terms of performance, they could not be any more different when it comes to their software. Starting with the Poco X2, this phone comes with MIUI version 11, which runs on top of Android 10, and the Moto One Fusion Plus just comes with Android 10. Now, is MIUI version 11 more feature-rich as compared to the One Fusion Plus's stock Android skin? Yes, it is. But this time around, Motorola is not offering a bare-bones software experience, and there are a lot of cool features that are useful too, which come bundled with the One Fusion Plus. So, on top of having the awesome Moto actions, you also get customization features with the phone, along with support for gestures, which is great. But the best part is that the One Fusion Plus does not come with any bloatware or ads. Now, Poco also claims that the software on the X2 will never ship ads, but I'm still iffy about the amount of pre-installed apps that you get with the phone. So from where I stand, or sit rather, I prefer the cleaner software experience on the One Fusion Plus. Now, when it comes to updates, I will admit that Motorola does not have the best track record, but the company has promised one major Android update with this phone and 2 years of security update. And same goes for the Poco X2 also, which also has been scheduled to get the next major Android update, so no complaints from either of the two phones in this department. Coming to the battery life, the One Fusion Plus ships with a 5000 mAh cell, whereas the Poco X2 offers a 4500 mAh battery. Now, both the phones can last you a full day of a single charge, but you can go a lot further on the Moto phone thanks to its bigger cell and 60Hz panel if you are a moderate user. But the Poco X2 does offer much faster wired charging thanks to its 27-watt charger, and the phone charges completely in under 1 hour and 25 minutes. The One Fusion Plus, on the other hand, takes over an hour more to refuel completely, as it only comes with an 18-watt charger. So the question that I want to ask you guys is that would you take slightly better battery life or much faster wired charging speeds? Okay, so which of these two smartphones should you buy? Well, the way I see it, both of these smartphones offer very similar performance, capable cameras, and very good audio setups. So the main differences between these two phones comes in the form of build quality, software experience, battery life, and displays. Now, if you want a smartphone that looks good, feels premium, offers better biometrics, and a 120Hz LCD display, then your choice should be the Poco X2. But if you want a smartphone that is average looking, but it does offer a very good color accurate display and a clean software experience, then the Moto One Fusion Plus is undoubtedly the way to go. In terms of battery life, again, this is going to boil down to your personal preference, but I would pick the Poco X2 here because I'm okay with 6 hours of screen on time, but I'm definitely not okay with over 2.5 hours of charging time. In the end, these are two of the best smartphones that you can buy under Rs 20,000, and I'm glad that we finally have some amazing competition in the affordable segment. But guys, that wraps up this video from my end. Do let me know in the comments below which smartphone would you pick, the Poco X2 or the Moto One Fusion Plus. And if you enjoyed this video, do give us a big thumbs up and share it with your friends. As always, this is Prateek from Mr. Phone, signing off.